Welcome back to the channel, Upcyclers. We got some cards back from PSA, so let's get right into it and talk about it. As you can probably see, there's some slips over here, slips over here. Some of those are covered up with slips. I attempted to do a lot of crossovers in this particular submission. I was primarily looking for strong subgraded BGS 9s and SGC 9.5s. I think there's a tremendous amount of value in those, and I think the difference between, an SGC 9.5 and a PSA 10 is very minimal. And I think that on any given card with any given grader, I think you've got a reasonable chance of a 9.5 turning into a 10. I've certainly done it a number of times in the past, and I was hoping to do it again. Now, from a financial standpoint, you really only need a small percentage of them to upgrade to a 10 to make the whole experiment worth your while. And overall, we definitely got there with this submission. Not everything was smooth sailing, and we'll get to that in a second. But let's start with these over on the right. These over on the right, you will notice the cards are not here. And the reason for that is I did the accept offer thing on the PSA side. If you're not familiar with that, they now have third-party sellers. It's not PSA, despite what some people are saying, complaining about. It's not a conflict of interest. PSA is not buying the cards. They are dealers and other folks, shops, places like that, other, repack companies, things like that are buying them or making offers or having standing offers when a card is graded, or a particular card is graded in a particular grade. There's sort of a standing offer for it. And I looked at each one of the offers they were offering me, and with the exception of this one here at the bottom, all of these got a 9. There were no real weird surprises of anything turned into like a 6 or anything like that. So for all intent purposes, we basically broke even on all of these here. We might have lost a couple bucks here. We might have gained a couple bucks there. Really, that had to do with how good of a deal we got picking up the cards in the first place. The math can get a little fuzzy because some of these were part of trades. So, in other deals, were there discounts because we bought a number of cards. So, in any event, I consider all this basically a wash. It covered its, for the most part, covered its grading fees. I mean, if you want to factor in grading fees and everything out the door, yeah, we maybe lost $5 a card, if that. So, but I just, for simplicity, consider that a break even. Now, over here on the right, you'll notice there are 3 cards that were not slabbed. 2 of these I did crack out. This is the 97 Masters Collection Tiger. It's one of the cards that people would debate is or isn't Tiger Woods' air quote rookie card. This came from like a set. They weren't in packs. It's kind of an odd shape. There's this one. Most people consider that 2001 Upper Deck card the rookie card. There's also the Sports Illustrated for Kids, I think, from 96. I mean, really, he debuted golfing at effectively in 96 is when he kind of broke out as a rookie on tour. So, depending on how you want to look at it, the rules of what was and wasn't a rookie card back in the day was certainly a little more fuzzy than it is today. Anyway, I picked these 2 up fairly cheap. I think maybe under $200 a piece. And this one was even cheaper than that. I did buy raw, and I sent them all in. This one got a recolored Do Not Holder, which I certainly didn't recolor it. I don't think anyone recolored it. But upon further research, what I'm guessing is that there are a number of fakes out there. Apparently there was some sort of like commemorative postery promotional material thing that was made a year or 2 later that people would cut this out of, kind of like almost like cutting a card out of a like out of an uncut sheet that you could get back in the day. and we're selling it or submitting it and getting it graded as um, authentic. And I'm the least worried about this one because A, it was the cheapest one of, I think I was just under $100. I'm just gonna take the L on this one and guess maybe that's what it is. I genuinely don't know. For science purposes, I might send it to like SGC or somewhere like that just to see if it gets holder or what somebody else thinks. I might send it back to PSA, but I don't want to send it back to PSA with these two, and I will tell you why. Because the order I put them in, I often try to put cards in order that I think will help them grade, because I kind of put them in from worst to best. So it was this potentially recolored one, then this one is how the order. Because this one had really strong subgrades, and I thought this was a strong 9 candidate with an outside shot at a 10. Like a lot of older cards, the multiples on the valuation of this card between a PSA 7, 8, 9, 10 is exponential. Um, this card is pushing $2,000 in a 9, or at least it was at the time that I sent it in. I honestly haven't looked at it the last couple of months, and I couldn't find an example of a 10 that had sold anytime recently. So I'm assuming it goes up quite a bit from there. It's an extremely low pop in a 10. But I think that, human nature and psychology, you see one that you kind of think is not legit or something wrong with it. And then there's two more cards that actually look a little nicer right behind it in the same order. And you're kind of like, your alarms in your head are already going off. And you'd rather err on the conservative side. So you just kick it out. Because I do believe I have literally opened a box of these before, and the cards were all bricked together and it was junk. But like, I've held I'm certain real one in my hand. I've looked at it. I believe these both are real. In the not too distant past, both SGC and BGS independently believed that those were real. So what I think I'm going to do is send just these two back in, along with another order, or whatever the next order I send in is, just to see what happens. And I have a feeling they're going to get slabbed the next time. So that brings us to this. Let's save this one for last, because there's a story that goes along with this one. This one here, I'll just show off very quickly. That's it's a gold refractor out of 50. Or is it 100? 50. That I did pick up raw, and that's just something for my own personal collection. Here were a couple that actually did manage to get the bump. So that went from a 9.5 to a 10. This one went from a 9.5 to a 10. That's both going to be a really nice bump in value. And whatever minimal losses we took on all the ones that crossed over to a 9, we more than covered with those two. This is an oddball. This went from a 9.5 to a 5. And it's kind of like that old joke where no matter what, how nice the cards are, you somehow always manage to get a 5 or a 6 back in every, bulk order of 20 plus cards. And I guess this was mine. I looked at this very thoroughly, with the exception of the autograph being a little faded, as many of them are on this particular Machado card from this time. I think they just used a crappy pen back in the day. This card's perfect. Like, it's really, really nice. So this was surprising to me, and that is absolutely going to get cracked and go back. And similar to the Tigers over here, I would bet $1 that that's going to come back at least a 9 when I send it back again. This one, I also thought, of all of the ones that was crossing over a 9.5, I was the most optimistic in this one. And this one only got a 9. I looked at this one every which way. This was a card I actually wanted and intend to continue owning in my own personal collection. I am strongly leaning towards cracking it and sending it back in again. I think I genuinely don't think there's anything wrong with this card. I think this card is immaculate. So I'm going to take another look at it and see if there's anything I can see. There are spots in the card like in certain spots of the logo with how they did the thing that kind of give the impression that there's like an issue, but when you really get there under magnification, there just isn't. That's just how the card is supposed to be. So I I think there's a reasonable chance that this one gets a 10 and it's worth running it back again um, from a value perspective because this is worth quite a bit more in a 10. And now this one. Spoiler alert, it got a 10. I originally purchased this card in an older BGS 9.5 slab. And it had 3.95s and a 9. And I did not think there was really anything wrong with the centering. So I originally sent it to PSA and, did a min grade 10, crossover, which of course they denied. That was stupid. It was a while ago. I would never do that again. Now I've learned my lesson with crossing stuff over to PSA. So they already declined to cross it over once. I was into it for about $600 or $700. I had a tag order going out, so I decided to send it into tag. I'll throw the clip in because I did talk about this in one of my videos months ago from tag, so we'll insert that here. I'm a little. I mean, I obviously have to send it somewhere because this card in raw is, $75, and I really don't want to take that big of a loss on it. So I'm leaning towards just sending it raw into PSA and seeing what they do with it. Now the centering, I think where it got dinged on centering is going to be the back. Do you see how it's a little off? Well, this would be left and right the way I'm holding it, but in reality, top to bottom on the card. Everything else looks pretty darn dead on. I mean, and it's a beautiful example of the card. So I could send it into PSA and they might give it a 10. It feels like one of those cards that no matter how many times you send it in, you never get a 10 from PSA. So now you've seen that and see now that, in fact, I did get lucky, I guess, for lack of a better term, and it did get a 10. They did send me an email and upcharge me on this. So instead of the $25 a card or whatever I was spending on this particular order, $22 a card, they did upcharge me to, I think, 200, which, I mean, it sucks that they do that. We can debate all day. I mean, Jeff Wilson just put out a video recently where they debated it because of his Steph Curry card. I have my own opinions on it, but the bottom line is it went from a $600 or $700 card to still a $600 or $700 card where I wasted, $50 getting it, tried to cross it over. Then it went to tag and was like a $50 card, $60 card. Now it's gone to PSA, and from the time that I was originally doing this, it had gone up from like a $2,800 card to like a $4,000 card. So I mean, that has got to be one of the biggest, most ridiculous roller coaster rides of card ownership and grading I think I've ever had. And there's actually another add-on to the story, which is that I threw it up while I was waiting for it to come back from PSA. I threw it up on Veriswap, and I got a whole kinds of offers and interest on it. But one guy offered me essentially, as best as I could see, and I felt pretty confident looking at the comps, probably about $6,000 or $7,000 worth of cards. So I took it. So I actually even accepted the deal before it even showed up in the mail. And now it just showed up today. I'm filming the video. I'm not sure when exactly I'll post this, but as soon as I'm done shooting this video, I'm going to pack it up and send it off to PSA. And it will have been in my possession for a few hours. And then it will go on to its permanent owner. So, yeah. That's the order. As always, I do very much appreciate your time. I appreciate you, supporting the channel, doing all that YouTube stuff. Like, subscribe, tell your friends. If you saw anything in here that you were interested in, or have any thoughts on any of this, please do share them below. I'd love to engage with people and chat about all this stuff in the comments below. I try to respond to everything pretty quickly. And yeah, as always, I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.